August 20th, 1935 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Paul served as a flight surgeon in the U.S. Air Force and established a medical practice. Paul is currently a congressman from Texas. He serves on the House Financial Services Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee. He was a presidential candidate in 2008 and 1988. The Ron Paul campaign raised $12.6 million, spent over $8.9 million, and has more than $3.6 million on hand.
I'm on the front lines of the stock market. We were down 400 points today. We're not going to be done going down if this keeps going up. If Italy the rates keep going up, surely you must recognize that this is a moment-to-moment situation for people who have 401ks and IRAs on the line, and you wouldn't just let it fail, just go away and take our banking system with it.
No, you have to let it liquidate. We took 40 years to build up this worldwide debt. We're in a debt crisis never seen before in our history. The sovereign debt of this world is equal to the GDP, as ours is in this country. If you prop it up, you'll do exactly what we did in the Depression, prolong the agony. If you prop it up, you do what Japan has done for 20 years. So yes, you want to liquidate the debt. The debt is unsustainable, and this bubble was predictable because 40 years ago we had no restraints whatsoever on the monetary authorities, and we piled debt on debt. We pyramided debt. We had no restraints on the spending, and if you keep bailing people out and prop it up, you just prolong the agony, as we're doing in the housing bubble. Right now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are demanding more money because we don't allow the market to determine what these mortgages are worth. If you don't liquidate this and clear the market, believe me, you're going to perpetuate this for a decade or two more, and that is very, very dangerous.
Dr. Henson, 30 seconds to 5.
Congressman Ron Paul, you have said you want to close down agencies. Tell us about your tax plan as well as closing agencies, federal agencies. Where do those jobs go?
Well, eventually they go into the private sector. They don't all leave immediately when the plan goes into the effect. But what my plan does is it addresses taxes in a little different way. We're talking about the tax code, but that's the consequence, that's the symptom. The disease is spending. Every time you spend, spending is a tax. We tax the people, we borrow, and then we print the money, and the prices go up, and that is a tax. So you have to address the subject of spending. That is the tax. That is the reason I go after the spending. I propose in the first year, cut $1 trillion out of the budget in 5 departments. Now, the other thing is that you must do, if you want to get the economy going again, is you have to get rid of price fixing. And the most significant price fixing that goes on that gave us the bubble, destroyed the economy, and is preventing this from coming out is the price fixing of the Federal Reserve manipulating interest rates way below market rates. You have to have the market determine interest rates if you want a healthy, viable economy.
So you think the economy would be stronger if interest rates were higher right now?
You would have more incentive. You would take care of the elderly. They get cheated. They get nothing for their CDs. Why cheat them and give the banks loans at 0%, and then they loan it back to the government at 3%? They're ripping us off at the expense of those on fixed incomes and the retirees.
Even though higher interest rates would make it much more expensive to borrow mortgages, borrow.
What you want is the market to determine this. Whoever thought that one person, the Federal Reserve Board chairman, knows what the money supply should be? Just in the past 6 months, M1 has gone up at the rate of 30%. That spells inflation. That spells lower standard of living and higher prices. And watch out, they're coming. Yep.
We are just getting started tonight. Down the line, 30 seconds. If you repeal Obamacare, what's the answer? We want to get each of your comments on what the plan is. Ron Paul.
We need to get the government out of the business, and we do need to have the right to opt out of Obamacare, but we ought to have the right to opt out of everything, and the answer to it is turn it back over to the patient and the doctor relationship with medical savings accounts. So I would say that we've had too much government. I've been in medicine. It's gone downhill. Quality's gone down. Prices have skyrocketed because of the inflation, so you need to get a market force in there, but medical savings account. But this mess has been created, it's a bipartisan mess, so it's been there for a while. So what we need is a doctor-patient relationship and medical savings account where you can deduct it from your taxes and get a major medical policy. Prices then would come down.
Governor Romney?
You do exactly what Ron Paul said. I didn't know whether Ron Paul was saying he's going to get rid of Medicaid. I would not get rid of Medicaid. It's a health program for the poor.
John.
Congressman?
My plan of cutting the budget by $1 trillion does deal with Medicaid, and that is that it preserves it, and there is a transition period with a goal that eventually we would hope to move that back into the economy. But right now it would be too much to do it in 1 year. You know, finding $1 trillion was a job and a half, and getting rid of five departments. So yes, my budget takes into consideration health care for the elderly, health care on Medicaid, as well as child health care. At the same time, we deal with the bailouts, the banks, and all the benefits that they get from the financial system, because what we're facing today is the crisis, and this housing crisis. If I could just have 1 second on that. We face the housing crisis once again because it's price fixing. They're fixing the prices of these mortgages too high, and this is why nobody will buy them. This is why you have to get rid of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, sell all of that into the marketplace. And the reason they do this is to prop up the banks, because the banks have invested in Europe, they've invested in the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and these credit default swaps. They're in big trouble, and that is why they're getting bailed out, and that's why they're not allowing these mortgages to go down, and that is why we will most likely bail out Europe, which will be a real tragedy.
Congressman, thank you for that. It's time for a quick break.
Hold it. John, I wanted to give them 15 seconds each to solve the deficit problem.
We'll come back to the deficit.
And I will tell you, it's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see.
You need 5.
Oh, 5. Okay. So commerce, education, and the
EPA?
EPA. There you go. No, okay.
Let's talk deficit.
Seriously? Is EPA the one you were talking about? Or?
No, sir. No, sir. We were talking about the agencies of government. EPA needs to be rebuilt. There's no doubt about that.
But you can't name the third one?
The third agency of government, yeah. I would do away with the education, the commerce, and let's see. I can't. The third one I can't. Sorry. Oops.
I want to turn the attention to why we're here on this campus and what many students are very interested in, and that is the fact that, Congressman Paul, right now we are looking at student loan debt that is near $1 trillion. Americans owe more on student loans right now than credit cards, and the average debt for a college senior right now is over $25,000. It's obviously a very hot topic right here on this campus and with students across the country. Just listen to what they have to say.
Tuition rates have increased roughly 3 times that of inflation over the last 3 decades.
More students have to take out loans or forego college.
My generation is graduating with student debt levels at an unprecedented level.
So, Congressman Paul, you've already talked about the fact that you want to get rid of the Department of Education. You've said that you want to get rid of federal student loans. So how would you make college more accessible, more affordable for these students and students around the country?
Well, I think you proved that the policy of student loans is a total failure. I mean, $1 trillion of debt, and it's going to be dumped on the taxpayer. And what have they gotten? A poor education and costs that have skyrocketed because of inflation, and they don't have jobs. There's nothing more dramatically failing than that program. So, no, there's no authority in the Constitution for the federal government to be dealing with education. We should get rid of the loan programs. We should get rid of the Department of Education and give tax credits if you have to help people. But the inflation is the big problem. 3 times the rate that the government admits inflation is, and that is natural and normal. When governments inflate the currency, it goes in the areas that the government gets involved in. Housing, high prices go up. Stock market, skyrocketing prices. Medical care, skyrocketing. Education.
How do they pay for it? How do they now pay for college if they're not?
The way you pay for cell phones and computers. You have the marketplace there. There's competition. quality goes up, the price goes down. Can you imagine what it would have been like if the Department of Homeland Security was in charge of finding one person or one company to make the cell phones? I mean, it would have been a total disaster. So when the government gets involved in the delivery of any service, whether it's education, medical care, or housing, they cause higher prices, lower quality, create bubbles, and they give us this mess that we're in. That's why we have to eventually we have to wise up and look at where the bubbles come from. It's from the Federal Reserve, and we should start by auditing the Fed, and then we should end the Fed.
Thank you, Congressman.
Congressman Paul, Governor Perry was just talking about the culture of Washington. His critics in the state of Texas, your congressman from Texas, say crony capitalism is what he's practiced as governor. Are they right?
I haven't analyzed it well enough to call him a crony or not, so no. I don't know the details of that, but there is a lot of crony capitalism going on in this country, and that has to be distinguished from real capitalism, because that's this occupation stuff on Wall Street. If you're going after crony capitalism, I'm all for it, and those are the people who benefit from contracts from government, benefits from the Federal Reserve, benefits from all the bailouts. They don't deserve compassion. They deserve taxation, or they deserve to have all their benefits removed. But crony capitalism isn't when somebody makes money and they produce a product. That is very important. We have to distinguish the two. And unfortunately, I think some people mix that. But this, to me, is so vital that we recognize what capitalism is versus crony capitalism. And believe me, when you have an inflationary environment and all this speculation and all the bailouts due to the monetary system, believe me, you get a majority of crony capitalism, and that's why we're facing this crisis today.
We want to thank all of you tonight. That is all the time we have for CNBC's Republican presidential debate. We thank all of the candidates for being here tonight and spending the time and putting their plans forward. We hope you now have a better understanding of where each of them stand on the economies, jobs, and your money.